Well, we didn't have to go too far in order to find someone who disagrees with me on the bicycle wars. He cycled right in here. Brett Tarver is the senior producer of Charles Adler here at Sun News. Thanks for doing this.
Jerry Agar, at last we meet.
At last we meet. And you wore your helmet.
I did. A really responsible, personal responsible kind of cyclist would.
Yeah, you know, my view on helmet law, by the way, is, because I'm a motorcycle rider, is I'm not nuts about the law, but you're an idiot to do it without a helmet, bicycle or motorcycle.
That's right. And the whole thing about the bicycle helmet law is that it should be a person's choice. They shouldn't be telling us to do it, but any smart person would wear a helmet.
All right, but I also talked about how I view, and it's not just in Toronto where I'm living now, but in other cities I've lived in, I see a tremendous number of bicycle riders who have no regard whatsoever for anybody else and the law or anybody else.
I don't think this is an issue of poor cyclists or whatnot. This is a matter of just poor drivers in general, whether it's cars or bikes, and people need to take responsibility of what they're doing on the road.
Sure, but you go out in traffic, and how often do you see somebody purposely blow a red light in a car or on a motorcycle? But when you see it constantly. I see it every single day with bicycles, every day.
You know, you're right. It happens all the time. But you know what? I think there has to be a double standard in this because cars have a much greater impact on what they're doing. The 2 tons of steel that are driving around, you have the power of life and death in your hands. If a bicycle gets hit, it's game over for the cyclist. But a car, it's not the same equation.
Yeah, but that doesn't give the bicycle rider then license to pretend the red light doesn't exist. First of all, I don't want to hit somebody on a bicycle and have to be responsible for that on my conscience and legally. And the rules of the road apply to bicycles. There's no equivocation here.
Oh, absolutely, they do. And if you're going to drive like a jackass, then you should deserve the consequences that you face.
Can we get a close-up on the shirt here? I mean, you've brought... Okay. Now, you've been in an accident, haven't you? You on your bike.
Yeah, and this entails the very mentality between motorists and cyclists. Did you know that the very first auto accident in the United States, 1896, was a car hitting a cyclist? And this left a whole trail of death by car that's lasted over 100 years. There's at least 60 to 70 cyclists getting killed by motorists every single year, and it's just the mentality of this whole thing. So I was riding my bike home. Yeah. I was obeying the rules. I was in my proper space. I was off to the side, and someone committed to me what they call in the cyclist community a door prize. They opened the door at the very last minute. Yeah. I went flying like a circus performer out of a cannon. I crashed onto the road. I spilled out, and when I get up, what happens? They yell at me. They are yelling at me for being in their way.
Was the car parked?
They were stopped. Yes, they were.
Okay, and you're zooming along right next.
Person getting out.
Oh, there's your bike.
Now this is the replacement bike. This is my wife's bike. My other bike tire is twisted like a pretzel. Yeah. And the point is that could have been my arm, or it could have been my spine, or I could have been game over altogether. I was lucky.
All right, but this is an inevitable thing when we have cars parked on the side of the road and bicycles zooming along on the left-hand side of the car.
Yeah, well, if a car is stopped, then we have to get around them. So, you know, the road is shared between cars and bikes. Yeah. Basically, I go out there looking and feeling like every single motorist is an idiot. Yeah. And if you follow that self-preservation kind of mentality, then you're going to go a long way. But the fact is that there's things that can happen beyond your control, and car drivers have a greater responsibility because they can end a life. Cyclists, how many cyclists have killed someone in a car?
Well, actually, they don't kill them in cars. They kill them on the sidewalk. And that does happen. It happened just recently in Toronto. And they're either injured and we've had people killed by cyclists. Cyclists are maniacs on sidewalks.
There can be a lot of maniac cyclists, and if they're going to act that way, then they should be prosecuted for acting like a yahoo. Absolutely.
Okay, but here's the problem I have. The bicycle advocacy groups don't take a reasonable attitude. They're constantly, it's the car driver's fault. It's the get out of my road, I'm on my bicycle. I'm green, I'm special. And I don't know, maybe the bicycle advocacy groups are the most radical people. But if that's the case, then responsible bicycle riders need to take a hold of this issue.
Look, like you use a good example. Like if you were walking down the sidewalk, Jerry, and you saw some little old granny in your way, would you shove her out of the way?
No.
You wouldn't shove her out of the way. And that's the kind of attitude, though, that a lot of cars have. And they are just bigger, stronger, and they have a much greater responsibility over what they're doing.
Yes, but I don't defend aggressive drivers in cars. I don't defend people being aggressive towards bicycle riders, which does happen. We had a taxi driver actually take out a bicycle, or no, it was a guy on a skateboard, but I think it was, you know, it's a similar mentality, kind of, in Toronto. But you don't see automobile groups coming out necessarily and advocating for that. Whereas there's that radical bicycle element that just, they're like this, they can't see that bicycle riders are ever wrong.
Listen, I don't agree with that total. If you're gonna go the wrong way down a road, if you're gonna run through red lights, you just can't expect that someone is going to you can't put your life in their hands. You can't act like a jerk on the road. That's a simple thing. But there is a bias against cyclists on the road. There's been many cases that have shown this. In Toronto recently, in the last month, you talked about a taxi cab driver. I don't know if it's the same case, but there was an altercation between a cyclist and a taxi cab. Taxi cab almost hit the rider. They yelled it out. Cyclist started walking away. And what did the cab driver do? He backed into the guy, pinned his leg against a pole, severed his leg. Right. And his charges go from assault with a weapon, using his car as a battering ram, to just reckless driving. There's an example. And I'm looking at the blogs on the cycling community. The prosecution rate for cyclists who get hit is cyclists getting hit by cars is very low. It's treated as an accident.
Well, there's a lot of problems, I agree, on both sides of this. And I invite the cyclist community to find some better advocates than some of the cycling advocates that there are. When you said you go out on your bicycle and you act as if everybody else on the road is an idiot, that's advisable whether you drive an 18-wheeler or a bicycle.
Absolutely.
The best way to protect yourself in traffic is to assume everybody else is going to do something stupid.
People have to take personal responsibility for what they're doing. They can't expect someone else to be looking out for them. And if you live that way, whether you're in a car or a bike, you're gonna get home at the end of the day.
All right, put your helmet back on and go home safely. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure.